everybody. Happy Poem in Your Pocket Day. Um, Hope you're doing well. Hope you are healthy and happy. I want to read some poems from two of my favorite authors. The first is Mr. Tim Burton, who you may know from films like Beetlejuice and Batman and Nightmare Before Christmas. He tends to be a little darker and have that sort of black humor. But that's one of the things that really attracts me to him. The second, also a darker author, one of our classic American authors who we associate more with short stories than poetry, but Mr. Edgar Allan Poe. Although I guess The Raven is a really famous Poe poem. Technically, that's a poem, I guess. And The Bells. But I'm not reading either one of those. I've got two others that I really like. So, let's begin with Tim Burton. He published a book of poetry, and it is illustrated because he is primarily an artist. It is entitled The Melancholy Death of Oyster Boy and Other Stories. And because he's an artist, I like this idea that people dabble in their art. And while he's mostly a visual artist, he also does write some poetry to go with it. So, let's see, we're going to start on page 74. This is entitled Brie Boy, and I would like to dedicate this to my friend Nicola, who is the mongerist cheesemonger in New York City. Nicola, hopefully you will appreciate this, and we'll be able to get together and hang out again soon when all this quarantine stuff is over. Brie Boy. Brie Boy had a dream he only had twice, that his full round head was only a slice. The other children never let Brie Boy play, but at least he went nice with a Chardonnay. Short, sweet, it's funny. And that's one of the things I like about Tim Burton's work, is it's just sort of this odd sense of humor and a different way of looking at things. So Nicola, I hope you enjoyed it. You can tune out now. Or stick around and listen to the rest. Might be fun. Anyway, I want to read three more from Tim Burton. The next one is entitled Mummy Boy. It's definitely a little bit on the darker side, but it's fun. Mummy Boy. He wasn't soft and pink, with a fat little tummy. He was hard and hollow, a little boy mummy. Tell us, please, doctor, the reason or cause, why a bundle of joy is just a bundle of gauze. My diagnosis, he said, for better or worse, is that your son is the result of an old pharaoh's curse. That night they talked of their son's odd condition. They called him a reject from an archaeological expedition. They thought of some complex scientific explanation, but assumed it was a simple supernatural reincarnation. With the other young tots, he only played twice, an ancient game of virgin sacrifice. But the kids ran away, saying, "You're not very nice." Alone and rejected, Mummy Boy wept. They went to the cabinet where the snack food was kept. He wiped his wet sockets with his mummified sleeves and sat down to a bowl of sugar-frosted tannel leaves. One dark, gloomy day, from out of the fog appeared a little white mummy dog. For his newfound wrapped pet, he did many things, like build a doghouse a la Pyramid of Kings. It was late in the day, just before dark. Mummy Boy took his dog for a walk in the park. The park was empty except for a squirrel and a birthday party for a Mexican girl. The boys and girls had all started to play, but noticed that thing that looked like paper mache. Look, "It's a piñata," said one of the boys. "Let's crack it wide open and get all the candy and toys." They took a baseball bat and whacked open his head. Mummy Boy fell to the ground and was finally dead. Inside of his head were no candy or prizes, just a few stray beetles of various sizes. Uh, well, this is definitely dark with poor Mummy Boy getting hit in the head and cracked open. Um, the rhyme scheme and the rhyming of it, and even just the idea of it, reminds me a lot of Dr. Seuss. And so it's kind of a little more twisted than Dr. Seuss ever was, but it's definitely a fun read. Next one I think is a little more serious. It's entitled Voodoo Girl. Her skin is white cloth, and she's all sewn apart. She has many colored pins sticking out of her heart. She has a beautiful set of hypnodisc eyes, the ones that she uses to hypnotize guys. She has many different zombies who are deeply in her trance. She even has a zombie who is originally from France. But she knows she has a curse on her, a curse she cannot win, for if someone gets too close to her, the pins stick further in. I like this poem a lot because I think while Tim Burton does have a darker sense of humor, I think this one addresses some of the more serious ideas that when you love somebody, there's always that idea of getting hurt. And I think it's fun the way he connected it to the idea of a voodoo doll with pins sticking in and the pain that people can feel in their heart from love. So I think that's really unique in some of the stuff that he has written. Last one is entitled Staring Girl. I once knew a girl who would just stand there and stare at anyone or anything. She seemed not to care. She'd stare at the ground. She'd stare at the sky. She'd stare at you for hours, and you wouldn't know why. But after winning the local staring contest, she finally gave her eyes a well-deserved rest. This one I like in particular because I always question, did he write the poem and then illustrate it, or did the pictures come first? Because this is a very typical Tim Burton-esque picture where the girl's got her eyes popped out of the sockets, and while that's kind of gruesome, they are sitting in a swimming pool and on a little lounge chair in the sun. And that's sort of a fun way to sort of dispel some of the creepiness of it. And so I always wonder with this, did he draw the picture and then see if he could come up with the story for it? Or did he write the story and then illustrate it? And I guess we'll never know, but maybe I could write him and find out. That's Melancholy Death of Oyster Boy and Other Stories. 4 of my favorites from there. So now we're going to look at Edgar Allan Poe. I want to start with A Valentine. For her, this rhyme is penned, whose luminous eyes, brightly expressive as the twins of Loda, shall find her own sweet name that nestling lies upon the page, enwrapped from every reader. Search narrowly the lines. They hold a treasure, divine, a talisman, an amulet, that must be worn at heart. Search well the measure. The words, the syllables, do not forget the trivialest point, or you may lose your labor, and yet There is in this no Gordian knot, which one might undo without a sabre. If one could merely comprehend the plot enwritten upon the leaf, where now are peering eyes scintillating soul, there lie pert us. 3 eloquent words oft uttered in the hearing of poets by poets, as the name is a poet's too. Its letters, although naturally lying, like the knight Pinto, Mendez, Ferdinando, still form a synonym for truth. Cease trying. You will not read the riddle, though you do the best you can do. So this was actually a Valentine that Poe wrote for a woman who I assume he had interest in. And what I like about this is it's really, really clever. And I think Poe does a lot of these sorts of things. He tells us up in the beginning, search narrowly the lines, they hold a treasure. And that she shall find her own sweet name lying here. And so he's hidden the girl's name inside the poem. And if you do a little research, you might figure it out. But I didn't. I had to Google it. The first letter of the first line, the second letter of the second line, the third letter of the third line, the fourth letter of the fourth line, the fifth letter of the fifth line, and so on and so on. If you follow through that way, you will get the name of the woman that he wrote the poem for. And I just think it's really, really clever. And it's sort of neat to see that thought that went into it. And of course, then I always wonder, did she get the poem? Was she able to find her name? And sort of how did this work out for him? It's interesting. The second poem is one I like for obvious reasons. It is entitled Sonnet to Science. Science, true daughter of old time thou art, who alterest all things with thy peering eyes, why preyest thou upon the poet's heart, vulture whose wings are dull realities? How should he love thee? Or how deem thee wise, who wouldst not leave him in his wandering, to seek for treasure in the jeweled skies, albeit he soared with an undaunted wing? Hast thou not dragged Diana from her car, and driven the Hamadryad from the wood, to seek a shelter in some happier star? Hast thou not torn the Naiad from her flood, the elfin form from the green grass, and from me, the summer dream beneath a tamarind tree? I really like the juxtaposition here, this compare and contrast between the scientific discoveries that were happening at the time that Poe was alive, and this idea of mystery and mysticism and mythology, and how he is accusing science of destroying and chasing away a lot of that stuff. I really enjoy that sort of play on words and that play on concepts. And while I do truly believe in science, it's always fun to have some ideas and some mystery in the world around us. And that mythology is always neat to think about. So that's definitely one of my favorites from Edgar Allan Poe. So I wish you a happy Poem in Your Pocket Day. I hope that you find the time to find a poem that you like and share it with people that are around you. Hopefully it'll brighten your day and it'll brighten theirs too. So be well, stay healthy, and hopefully we will see you back in school soon. Bye-bye.